new business,
Yep.
offering those services, which you've clearly been brilliant at for 3 years. Um, what happened? Let's go back 3 years, right? LinkedIn's been around for a long time. You've been in business for longer. So what happened in 3 years ago for you to jump onto LinkedIn?
Ooh. It was funny because I went into I was in retail until I was 31. So from 16 to 31, I was in retail, and I was a real technophobe, to be honest. I've barely been on the internet.
Everyone I know who works in retail is totally afraid of tech.
Yeah, and even though it was electrical retail,
Really?
I worked for Comet for like 16 years, but or 15 years. But I was a manager from a very young age, like I say. So, and what happens is when you become a manager, you kind of lose track a little bit of the product knowledge because your focus
Sure.
is on the people and performance. So I I got approached by an ex-colleague of mine who'd got been lucky enough to get into this digital marketing company.
Right.
A small outfit, 7, 8 people. And he rang me up and he said, "Look, are you ready to get out of retail? Because I might have something for you. It's a risk, but I might have something for you where you're only working Monday to Friday. The money could be good, commission based, blah, blah, blah." And I said, "Do you know what? I'm getting married in a month. I haven't got any kids yet. Linz and I had a really little mortgage at the time. And I said, I'm ready. Let me come and have a chat." So I went and had a chat with him, hit it off, handed my notice in, started straight after the wedding and the honeymoon.
Amazing.
Literally on my first day, I was like, I haven't got a clue what I'm doing here. And I had someone sitting next to me who was like 21. I was 31, 31. I had someone sitting next to me at 21, and I was like, she could tell I was still doing like right click copy, right click paste.
Nice.
And she was like, "Why aren't you just doing control C and control V?" And I went, "What? What's control C?" Literally, like I felt like
Yeah, yeah, sure.
such an old man.
And she's
And
10 years younger, and you're like, "Oh,
yeah,
fine."
she's 10 years younger. So I'm thinking, right, okay, I'm not in retail anymore. I'm not the one that knows it all. I'm now the one that knows nothing. So it was a real learning curve for me, but that transition to digital was the thing that just literally unleashed that entrepreneurial side of me. Um, but it was a really good company, really great people, and I you know there was one project that we did called Star Your Car, which started on Facebook, and this was where I look at the whole. I wanted to help people with average cars that were in the car scene because I'm very much a petrol head myself, and I wanted to create a page that wasn't just for the millionaire supercars. It was for the everyday modder that wants to get his car shown to the masses.
So, like where Top Gear got in the end when I was like, "Can't afford that, can't afford that, can't
Yeah.
afford that." Oh, look, they're
Yeah.
doing some reasonably priced cars for 15, for 30 seconds of the show.
Yeah.
Like,
It was
that
it
was
was
that
that.
was my most interested bit, right?
And we actually got some really great cars sent in, but and it went mad on Facebook. And this was obviously what, 10 years ago, when you could get organic reach on a Facebook page. And we got to like 2, 3,000 followers like really quickly.
Wow, and 10 years
And
ago, that's numbers as well. That's, like,
yeah,
serious numbers.
and do you know what? The page still gets engagement now, and we haven't touched it for 7 years. Um, but and it got to like 12,000 followers or something. But it literally took over my life. But I was so obsessed with it because it was my thing, and I built a website, and I had this idea of building it into a real community that we could monetize. And my boss at the time was very supportive of it because him being an experienced marketeer, he could see how we could potentially monetize it. But the biggest mistake I made with that, and you learn from everything, I took it away from social media. I tried to, because I didn't understand social media. I hadn't ever posted on Facebook, and I was thrown into this Facebook world. And the biggest mistake I made was I tried to convert those Facebook users who loved it, and I tried to move them to a website because in those days you could sell banner space on a website and you could charge thousands of pounds if you had the traffic. well, you still can, but in those days, it was really, my boss was like, "That's what we need to take it."
And funnels, funnels, funnels. Everywhere's got to end up
Yeah,
somewhere, right? And why would you have people hanging out on Facebook when they can come hang out in our place?
exactly. But
Mm.
it was literally that was the death of it.
Really?
That was the death of it, because this community, instead of what you would do now, which is absolutely monetize that Facebook traffic,
Sure.
and build around that. That at the time they were like, I don't want to leave Facebook.
Yeah.
The point of what you've created here is that it's on Facebook,
Hmm.
and
That's where
that's
I
where,
found you. That's where I
yeah,
am. Yeah.
exactly. So that was a big mistake, but it was a massive learning curve, and I learned so much about social media from that project that in the end was like 3 years.
Right.
Um, and it kind of, and then LinkedIn started in, I got into LinkedIn in 2019, and the reason I got into it was because the company I was with, who I spent 10 years with, by the way, who in when I look back now, having gone somewhere else and now left there, and we'll go
Yeah.
we'll go on to that in a minute. Um, they were awesome.
Right.
The reason they were awesome is because they completely got me, and I'm not the easiest person to employ. Well, I'm easy to employ. I'm not the easiest person to live with.
Sure. I
And
mean,
they were amazing.
yeah. There's every business owner who's watching this
Yeah,
right now is like,
yeah. They totally got me, and they worked to my strengths, and they knew exactly what I was good at, and they let me
mm.
manage teams in the way that I wanted to manage them, and
And
I had
clearly
some
helped you with
amazing
your
people.
weaknesses as well. If you
Yeah,
started there with zero knowledge, or zero knowledge, um, but we're in that industry where you needed to like upskill, they must have given you a lot of leeway to be like, we know you don't get this yet,
yeah,
but here you go. Here's some more. Keep learning, and some support to that. I've seen a lot of agencies who will employ people from not, just straight
mm,
in the industry, straight in social,
mm,
in marketing or whatever. And then very quickly they're like picking these people out and being like, well, why don't you know that? What do you mean you don't
mm,
know paid ads? What hashtags? Oh, come on. And it's like, no,
yeah,
I don't know because I do this thing, right? The thing I'm great for and have you employed me for. So they must have been, and to keep you for 10 years, right? Especially if you're hard to live with.
yeah,
Um, but
yeah,
that as someone who's incredibly hard to live with, and I assume my wife takes a lot of Valium. But it's very easy for a business to be like, yeah, dude, and for us hard to work with people, live with people, it's easy for us to be like, I'm moving on because you're
yeah,
a problem, I'm not a problem, right? So they must have really worked with you to build an environment that was great for you and where you could then be successful as well. And a lot of businesses, that's a hard balance to make. They can either make it great for people
yep.
or successful.
But it is, and they did work with me, and obviously I the reason they employed me in the first place was because they wanted managers that had been managers in when they were very small, so that as the company grew, they had
Mm,
those foundations in place. Because the mistake a lot of companies make, they want to grow and explode and get all
yeah,
these staff in, but then there's no one to actually coach and develop and mentor those people, so it just becomes a bit of a
100%.
circus.
Yeah,
So they absolutely did the right thing. They brought 3 or 4 of us in that were managers. We couldn't be managers at that point. We had to go in and be salespeople,
brilliant
but
though.
they paid us well. So we were like, "I'll be a salesman for a year.
Sure.
Pay me the money." Um,
And
and
by the
then
end of it, I'm
within,
going to know exactly what
yeah,
we do, and I can tell the
exactly
next
that.
team exactly how to do it and what not to do. And
Yeah. But the reason, so going back to why I did LinkedIn was because
mm,
probably for 2 years previous to me doing it for myself,
yeah,
the one flaw that I felt was there, and this is just them and their personal view on it, and that's entirely up to them, and this is perhaps where we did differ. I was always talking about, okay, we're a marketing company that are great at marketing other people's products,
mm.
but we don't market ourselves. So,
I hate that.
and this is the problem with so many businesses. They
You
rely
know how
on,
much I hate that, but carry on.
yeah, they rely on outbound, 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 and there's nothing in place that in time will generate inbound, inbound, inbound.
Hmm,
So your salespeople are out there relentlessly in pursuit of new clients.
mhm,
But actually, if your digital presence isn't where it needs to be in terms of your social media presence, in terms of your website optimization, because
mm.
you've neglected that, because in your world, it's like, well, as long as you can convince them on the phone, we're golden.
Yeah,
We're in 2022. No one gets convinced on the phone. Like 70, 80% of whether they're going to work with you or not is done before you even speak to them.
100%. You close on the phone.
Yeah.
Right? Is
So
from a sales point of view, like closes are done on the phone. Opening, sure, but it's opening the rapport, it's opening the relationship. Someone has already decided. I remember the change happening in sales because I've been in sales for five, how many years, decades. And there was a time when people needed you to cold call them so they knew the stuff existed. Like people didn't know stuff existed, right? And I saw the change of that happen early 2000, 2010, when people were like, no, no, I've Googled it. Like I used to work in IT. I'd be like, Andy, the best firewall in the world, the one you need is the Flimby Flomby 5000. That's the one for you. And I'm talking to people being like, the Flimby Flobby is great, but it doesn't do these things. But the Juniper does, the Palo Alto does. Have you ever looked at Cato Networks? And you'd be like, oh, informed buyer. And informed buyers used to be something you'd come across every now and again, who would be like some real geek of the industry, whoever you're working, who would know all the stuff. But everybody else is waiting to be informed by that. And it comes back to like, Zenith Windows. How do people sell Windows? I see you've got bad windows, Mister. I see. Are you cold in the winters? And people are like, I am pretty cold. Yeah, yeah. Right. Well, I saw it, right? Because people didn't have. They weren't sitting on Facebook or Instagram or TikTok or wherever and seeing ads come up being like, are you cold in the winter? You should try fixing your windows and have double glazing, right? So it comes back from that. But that change in us all having the information and being able to be an informed buyer, even when it's something I don't know about, I can dive into, we need a plumber. Right. Okay. We need a plumber. I can become an expert ish in what I need in an hour or two and contact 5 people, have conversations, decide I want to work with one. But I'm only contacting those 5 people because I've already done the research on 35 more. So I totally agree. I totally agree. It's like that switch has happened.